11/13/2022. We'll start with a prayer by by Pastor Hawkins, then the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Meade. Come on up front, Josh. Pastor Hawkins is going to say the invocation.
Let's bow our heads. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, as we come to you this day, Lord, we thank you for this day that you've given us. Lord, we thank you for each and every blessing, Father, that you've given us in our life. Lord, we thank you for your grace and your mercy. Most of all, Father, we thank you, Lord, for reaching down and saving our soul. Father, we thank you, Lord, as we come tonight for this meeting. Lord, we just pray, Father, that you just take, Lord, the leaders that are in this room, Father, the commissioners that are in this room. And Lord, Father, we pray that you just give them the leadership and the guidance, Father, that you would see fit. And Lord, that we would conduct business, Father, that was pleasing in your eyes tonight. And Lord, as we go throughout this day, Father, throughout this meeting, we just give you all the praise, glory, and honor. For it's in your name we pray. And amen.
I request you all join me in a pledge of the flag. Hand salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have the appearance of citizens for anything that's not on the agenda.
Somebody's coming in the hall, I think.
Can we get the TV on out here?
Okay, let's go ahead and do the approval of the agenda, please.
They didn't hear outside. Can you give us, we're trying to get the TV on, just 1 second.
Okay.
What did you just ask about?
Well, we're going to do the approval of the agenda, then we'll do the appearance of citizens for anything that's not on the agenda. Okay.
Is that where we are now?
No, we're going to do the approval of the agenda, then we'll do the appearance of citizens. Commissioner Meade?
Yeah, I have a motion to make to add as item 11, the approval of the mayor's letter to EPA Director Manal, or however it's pronounced, regarding the American nuclear site.
Okay.
I'd like to move the resolution for Coach Hackler to the consent agenda for next Monday night.
Okay.
Is that, oh,
We're actually going to do that for August.
Oh,
and
okay.
Do a joint presentation with the school board.
okay, so we don't need
So-
it on there tonight at all, though?
yes, no,
Okay,
no.
yeah, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Yeager, did you make a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Tonight, the mayor will be joining us at the commission table just to give up her regular seat back there. So I appreciate that. Now it's appearance of citizens for anyone, for anything that's not on the agenda.
I've looked at the agenda tonight. My name's Marcia Illingworth. I live in Claxton. There are a group of us who were here last month over a very pressing issue that we have had no updates on. I notice it is not on the agenda to deal with anything doing with the shelter. While we do have time apparently for things that the county has no influence over, it would really be nice if we could have an update on what's going on with the
We're
shelter.
actually going to do that under old business.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. All right, next is the pro-life resolution. And that was a request from me. It's because of when we did, and I'm an animal lover and I've got cats everywhere, I'll just tell you. But when we did that and we were talking about the cat and the kittens being aborted and the pain that they went through, I got a conviction, a compelling conviction on my heart. What about babies? And the only thing I'm asking is for discussion tonight, to see if we can form a resolution or an agreement to become like a sanctuary county. If Roe versus Wade is turned over, let's be in front of it. And sometimes when you don't listen to the divine word, I wouldn't want to be that person. Okay? And then, if anybody wants to go to Main Street's Facebook page and see yesterday's sermon, man, you're talking about hitting home. And it's all about being obedient to God when He asks you to do something. So, but if you get that opportunity. So I think Pastor Hawkins wants to say a couple of words, and then the rules are we got 3 minutes, and how many, you know, when they come down from the upper room, how long did it take to save 3,000? Okay, Pastor Hawkins.
I'd like to say that I'm thankful for the opportunity that we got to speak before the county tonight. Me and my wife had encountered an issue here several years ago, back in 2017, and I'd like to share our experience with it and why I think that the county putting restrictions in that upon abortions and being pro-life is going to benefit more than anything. And first of all, it's God's word, and that we shouldn't be killing babies. Instead of us worrying about hugging trees, we ought to be worrying about the unborn, and I believe that with all my heart. So, and I know, Tim, we only got 3 minutes, but you picked a Baptist up here, so I'm sorry about that. Back in 2017, me and my wife, we already had 2 children, boy and girl, and thought that the Lord was done with our children. And we found out that we were expecting our 3rd child. She goes to the doctor. She's having some issues, and I'm trying to condense a long story. If you want to know more of it, you can ask my wife later on. She can give you a lot of the details. But she was having a little bit of issues, and we finally get to the OBGYN. They do an ultrasound. They say she's 5 weeks and 5 days pregnant. Everything's looking great, but we still got some concerns. And so we keep on going. We come back for the 7-week ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech looks at us, and they say, there's no baby in the sac. We go back and we speak to the doctor, and the doctor begins to tell us that we need to take abortion medication. Growing up, that's not what we were raised on. We were raised on the truth. We were raised on the Lord and His word and His promises are true. We left that doctor's office that day, not with a prescription for abortion medication, but the doctor gave us an option. She said, I'll give you 7 days. She said, but it's impossible that there's a baby inside this sac. If we would have seen a baby, evidence would have shown there. And I said, Doc, are you sure she's not that far along? No, we're certain. We asked all many questions, and she told my wife and me, she said, if you don't take this medication, we'll have to surgically remove. And so she said, but I'll give you 7 days. This was on a Monday. She said, I'll give you 7 days, and when you come back in 7 days, if we don't see no baby, she's going to have to start this medication. Tim, as we begin to go home, we begin to pray. That's the only thing I know to do. When the only thing you can do sometimes is pray. Sometimes it's where God wants you to be. And so we begin to pray. We begin to pray as a family. We begin to pray as a church. Even got the word out through the community. They diagnosed her with what they call a blighted ovum. Research it, look it up on the internet. You can read all about it. It's where a sac begins to grow. She began to carry on a pregnancy, but when she began to give birth, there would have been no fetus, no baby in the sac. She would give no birth to a baby. If we'd have took that doctor's word that day, we would have been in a world of hurt. But as we began to pray as a community, as a family, when we left that day, 7 days later, she goes into the doctor. She goes back to do an ultrasound. The ultrasound tech looks at her and she said, now why are we here today? And she began to remind her she was the one that was just in there a week ago that they told her that she needed to abort that pregnancy. As the ultrasound tech began to do an ultrasound, up on the screen, there was a baby. I wasn't able to make that to that doctor's appointment with my wife that day, but I remember where I was at. I was driving down 61, about to turn up Hillville at the red light. And my wife called me and she said, hey, honey, do you want to hear its heartbeat? I tell you what a mighty God we serve.
It's true.
Amen. I tell you, so on December the 6th of 2017, and I brought him with me, on December the 6th of 2017, there was a child that the doctors wanted to abort. There was a pregnancy that the doctors said was impossible. But I brought him with me today, and I've got a 4-year-old that stands right here that wasn't supposed to be here if it was up to the doctors. How about we let God do the work instead of the doctors doing the work?
He looks pretty good to me.
You know, that yesterday during church, we'd had Vacation Bible School, so we had all the children up front. That's our future, our children. Okay, who else would like to speak? Let's see. Okay. Come on up. Just state your name and address, please.
Because it's 3 minutes, I took the liberty of printing out my notes, so if I could give these to.
Okay.
I'm Mary Nepper. I live in Andersonville on the Norris Freeway. I've been there for nearly 20 years, and I'm responding to John Alley's invitation that I should attend more county meetings. So this is John Alley Sr. Thank you for this opportunity to address the board and this intention of designating Anderson County a sanctuary county for the unborn. I want to preface my remarks by saying I am a former Republican township commissioner for Wheatland Township in Will County outside Chicago. I served on a planning committee. I'm a former college professor. I've owned a consulting practice that does aluminum and steel documentation and training. I've done it nationally and internationally. But now I'm in Anderson County, and I want to work with and for Anderson County in the best way I can. I see the mayor, and she knows I've been out there with a shovel and a rake, as she has too, so I appreciate this opportunity. So, Commissioner Isabel, regarding your proposal, I would respectfully request suggest that this intention is unnecessary on several levels. First of all, it's not the purview of the Operations Committee to which this intention is addressed. The second thing is it strikes me as virtue signaling, which is saying you are invoking virtue, your virtue, and taxpayers know we have an honorable commission. You don't have to do that. We know your character. You don't have to do that. This issue is, the sanctuary for unborn is non-issue in Anderson County. There are no abortion clinics here. I checked. I called around. And I looked to see if women's health was code for abortion, and a very stiff-lipped person said it is not. So this county is already, if you will, in practice, anti-abortion. So this is icing on the icing, and I'm not sure what it would fulfill. So that being said, I'm fully behind what you want. I'm fully pro-life. We want to protect the unborn if proposing sanctuary includes sanctuary for moms. Yeah. For moms. I would like to know straight up, Commissioner Isabel, if you would support the following. I'm serious about these. Okay, and that's why I gave you a bit of my bio. I'm putting my life out here for this, just as you have in your beliefs. So, can we provide expectant mothers with full prenatal care? They do it in other countries, less advanced than ours, less wealthy than ours. If not, we are adding to a rising problem that's been an embarrassment in the United States for years. We have the highest medical costs and the worst care for expectant mothers and the newborn in our global economy. And you can check Forbes. It's July 2021. It's in the papers there. And I'm going to quote just a little bit in the interest of time. If you'll bear with me, I appreciate it. It's been an embarrassment to me as a United States citizen. I thought we were a lot better than that. We're not. It's embarrassing. The United States is the only industrial nation in the world where maternal mortality is rising. In the U.S. has nearly the highest maternal mortality rate among high-income countries. This group today is blessed, indeed blessed, because you probably have health care, you have community support, you have churches who love you and take care of you, but how many in the county have that? Can we demand of the whole county what all of us privileged people have at this moment? And with respect to infant mortality, we're number 33 out of 36. We're at the bottom of the wealthy countries. That's an embarrassment. And there's more statistics in there that you can read. Okay, number 2. So that's number 1. Let's take care of the moms, too. So then I'm all for it. Okay, I'll carry a banner for you. Number 2, ensure that the quality of medical care is commensurate with all other mothers in all income brackets, not just us privileged lot. Number 3, give expectant mothers fully paid time off from work before and after birth, 2 months before, 6 months after. You have not been pregnant. You have no clue, all right? Men do not have a clue, at least not yet, but maybe we're working on that. If the mothers are not working, ensure that their expenses are covered. Number 4, provide all of the baby supplies, similar to what hospice does at the end of life. I lost my husband in February. We had everything and stuff we didn't need because I could afford to get them. That's the end of life. Why not do it for the beginning of life? How many of you would open your wallets now and help these kids and their moms? Ensure that the birth father's involved. Look at all the dads here. They're involved. Ensure that the father's involved in paying for care, or be clear in stating that the pregnant woman is entirely responsible and has all of the financial risk and the health risks. Ensure adequate housing for mother and child. Educate offspring so that they can succeed in our society. Is my time up?
Yes.
Okay, well, but I have a few questions on the logistics. Who's going to administer this sanctuary? What does it really mean? Who's going to administer it? Is it the police? Who would be responsible department for funding this? If so, are you going to increase our taxes? Or what are you going to cut? What programs are you going to cut to cover this?
If you want to come Thursday night, I'll show where the money is in Anderson County.
Oh, I want to see the money.
Yeah,
I'll be there
come.
Thursday.
But I've talked to the
Okay.
mayor. Mayor
All
can
right.
probably, she's already talking about some of the things, heading that off. Because what this is a discussion to see what we can do to help to get in front of it for the unborn. And the mayor's got some great ideas.
I'm sure she
address
does.
all.
She always have great ideas. Can you add the moms? Can you add the families? Can you make sure that education is provided so we don't feed the prison factories with people who can't get jobs? I've also got statistics on Anderson County and how health is, the health situation in Anderson County. 13% of this county is poor. You know what happens to poor people? Do you know some poor people? Yeah. So this is a great direction, but let's include everybody. If you're pro-life, let's be pro-life and not just use a dog whistle. So I thank you for this time, and I thank this
thank you.
community.
All right, who else wanted to speak? Okay, come on.
So, Mr. Chairman, under normal circumstances, especially like when the animal folks came in, you had asked them to have one person step forward. We have several people here who want to speak, and if you give each person 3 minutes, we'll be here
Oh,
until
I think,
Tuesday
but
of next
th-
week.
this is the church body of Anderson County.
I understand that.
And they're all here for one particular reason.
I understand that.
And
We have
there's only
11
gonna be
items, we have
the-
11 items on, we have
The
11.
church body is what I'm talking about. And then your questions, the things that Ms. Napier talked about, those are things that we can address. That's what this is about. Name and address,
Oh,
please.
right.
My name is Jeremy Mefford. I live at 223 Early Drive in Powell. I am here as a representative of Christ the King Church here in Anderson County. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak in favor of this resolution, especially Chairman Isbell for having the courage to do it. I know resolutions like this are sure to provoke controversy from certain quarters, and you could have avoided all of this trouble by not standing up for justice in this way. So I want to thank you for that and say that you're in our prayers as this moves forward.
Thank
As this resolution is brought before the public, as I said, I'm sure you'll receive a lot of pushback and anger directed at you or the commission in general. It'll be very passionate opposition at times with strong attempts at persuasion and emotional appeals. People may even call you, evil, bad for doing something like this, but I want to say that on what authority can someone say that is the main thing I'm here to say. To call something evil implies that there's an objective moral standard that they're appealing to. And if this resolution's opponents don't appeal to such a standard, they're just stating strong personal preferences at that point. And if so, that's completely fine. There's a public forum, anyone can state their personal preferences. That is completely acceptable. But to go forward to call something that's your personal preference, something against that evil or bad, is then a little arrogant if you're not appealing to a higher standard that is bringing that into play. So reasoning like that is certainly not a sound basis for just, righteous, and wise governance. So I would rather not bring you, my personal preference forward. I'd rather bring you God's word. And what does God's word say about children after they've been conceived? In Exodus chapter 21, it says, "When men strive together and hit a pregnant woman so that her children come out, but there is no harm, the one who hit her shall surely be fined, as the woman's husband shall impose on him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if there is harm, then you shall pay life for life." And what we see here is God's law prescribes the same level of justice for preborn humans as it does for every other human, because there is no difference in their worth, value, or dignity. And it provides this justice even in the case of accidental death, as we see in the scriptures. How much more can we say that the intentional killing of a child is evil? Anyone who tells you the Bible and God's word says differently is twisting the scriptures. So, in our view, this resolution does exactly what all proper government measures should do in reflecting God's truth in what it implements. So we believe it should certainly be ratified. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wendell Schrock. My address is 799 Roddy Road, Spring City, Tennessee. But I am a member of Christ the King Church that currently meets at the Claxton Community Center, and we are hoping to move to this community soon. I, along with many others from Christ the King, regularly plead for the lives of innocent babies, innocent unborn babies. We offer help to moms and dads at the abortion clinic at Clinch Avenue in Knoxville. The moms know their babies. They do not want our help. They rebuke us. They curse at us. They scream and yell at us. They don't want help. They know their babies. They know that they're killing them. They're not victims. I would like today to thank the committee for the opportunity to come and speak on this important issue. And I would love to tell the story about my wife's last pregnancy, where the doctor said she had to have an abortion or she was going to die. But we trusted Christ and allowed him. But instead, I would like tonight to talk about what the Bible says about the baby in the womb. There are many who say that the baby in the womb is not really a baby, it's just a parasite or a mass of cells. There are many others who say that abortion is a woman's right and that it is her body and her choice. But we have to ask, what does God's holy word say about this issue? First, let me say that Genesis 29, verse 31 says, "Now Yahweh saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb." So it is God that opens the womb for the baby to be there in the first place. In Psalms 139, King David, the prophet and psalmist, says to God in verse 13, "You formed my inward parts." King David is acknowledging that it is God who forms the inward parts, the very inward parts of a baby. He goes on to say, "You wove me in my mother's womb." King David is saying that it is God who weaves or forms or puts the baby together in the mother's womb. He goes on to say in verse 14, "I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works." Again, here we see that King David is saying that the baby in the womb is fearfully and wonderfully made by God, and that the baby in the womb is God's works and not the work of man or woman. In verse 16, he says, "Your eyes have seen my unformed substance." And God tells the prophet Jeremiah in Jeremiah 1:5, "Before I formed you in before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." God sees and knows the baby in its unformed substance before he ever forms it in the womb. When the angel Gabriel came to visit the mother Mary, it says in Luke 1:35, the angel answered and said to her, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. And for that reason, the Holy Child shall be called the Son of God." Here the angel Gabriel refers to the baby that would be conceived in Mary's womb as a child. And in Luke 1:41, when Mary goes to visit her cousin Elizabeth, who was pregnant with John the Baptist at the time, it says, "When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the baby leaped in her womb." Here we see that the Bible, God's holy word, refers to that which was in Elizabeth's womb, not as a parasite, not a mass of cells, but as a baby. A baby. And in Genesis 1:26 through 27, it says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness." God created man in his own image. He created them.
We're running,
Male,
we're-
female.
yeah, we've run about 6 minutes, but I do appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
God bless you all.
Me again. I'm still Marcia Illingworth from Claxton. And yet again, this happened to me last month. I came to a meeting not expecting to speak. And something happened that moved me to do so, and it's happened again tonight. I am a lifelong Christian. I personally could never have an abortion, much to my mother's dismay. Told her she wanted us to have abortions, she probably shouldn't have hired a Catholic nanny. That's not the point. The point is the gentleman who chose to carry on their pregnancies made a choice to carry on their pregnancies. No one was forcing them to abort a pregnancy. It's not everyone's view that a child in the womb, while alive, is a viable life. Had I known that I was going to be moved to do this tonight, I would have come armed with Bible phrases too. In the Bible, women are told to abort children if they aren't of their own husband's making. Babies are not considered. I respected you. Could you give me some? Thank you.
Address the chairman, please.
In the Jewish faith, life begins when first breath is drawn. I appreciate everyone in this room is a Christian. Well, that's an assumption. I assume everyone in this room is a Christian and entitled to their beliefs. But they can't impose those beliefs on everyone else. As the earlier speaker, whose name I don't know, said, there are no abortion clinics in this county. Abortion itself is not a subject that county government has any authority over. None whatsoever. We can have moral feelings in our hearts, and God knows I do. I have talked to other women and tried to talk them out of aborting their fetuses. I have also known women who cried for weeks because the baby was not going to live more than maybe a couple of hours and they would be in pain. And the kindest thing they could do was abort. A very much wanted baby. The wife of one of my foster kids when I had kids. It's not a cut and dried issue. The main point is it's not a county issue. And that's all I've got to say about it.
Okay. Judge Layton, did you want to speak? Okay. Who's next? Let's get about 3 more. Kathy Moore.
This really scares the heck out of me because I don't think anybody's been reading the Bible, what God says. What does God say? He says, don't have an abortion or you're going to get killed and you're going to go to hell. He's going to take you to hell. God's going to take you to hell because the Bible says you can't have abortions. Read Revelations right now. He's here. He's coming. The devil's already here. He's changing the whole world. He's already in foreign countries. And he's changing things. He's making people sign where they have to deal with everything he's doing. He's coming to Tennessee. He's coming every place. And God's coming, and all these people who's believing in abortions and who's doing what they're doing, they're going to hell. If these doctors, one doctor in Knoxville called me, and he says, Kathy, I cannot believe what you did when you was in high school. We saved 5 children in high school when children got pregnant. And they were going to have abortions with their parents, and we saved them, and we put them in homes and everything. And he said, I want to tell you what happened. He said, I aborted children, he said, for 14 years. And he says, I agree with you now, after I have accepted Christ as my Savior, to know that if I do any more, I'm going to hell. If I have not taken God in my heart myself and said, Lord, take me now, let me be for you, that I'm going to hell myself. He says, I killed so many babies. And he says, I can't do that anymore. And he said, thank you, thank you. And now I send out 115 scriptures per day to tell people if they don't know God, and you don't know God, and you don't have it in your heart, that he's coming pretty soon, and you'll all go to hell with the devil, and you'll burn forever. So please read the Bible. Read Revelations right now to see what he's saying. We don't have to have abortions, and we don't need abortions. So please, for God's sake, believe in him, trust in him, and let him know how you truly and really, really feel. Because I don't want to see any of y'all go to hell. I'd like to see you all in heaven because we'll know one another. We'll get to be with one another. We get to say with one another. So please, read the Bible. If you don't read the Bible and you think abortions are okay, then go to some preacher or go to somebody and talk to them and let them give you the 14 scriptures in the Bible that says you cannot have abortions. I hope you all pray about it. I really do, because I'm really worried about it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's get someone from out in the hallway.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So if you're closing...
Come up to the front.
Okay. Hi, my name's Phoenix Prater. I live right over there on Sharp Street in Clinton, Tennessee. I'm a new resident, been a long time ORU UC person. My question is, if this is an open forum, it seems as though you're saying 4 or 5 more people. It seems as though the count has been kind of off. Typically coming from a place like Vegas, you will see that people can sign up for yay or nay, but it seems like we're looking at just one side of the aisle. So if we're going to close the table soon, shouldn't we have people that have a different opinion, their time as well? Because currently right now, I think we're at like 4 to 1. It might be 5 to 1.
3 to 3.
No, I'm pretty sure we had a couple of Republican women as well.
Address the chairman, please.
But that's my question. Like, if we're going to do that, like, we need to evenly bring up the argument if you're closing the table. If not, we should all have our time to speak. And that's just my question for you.
Well, I'm sure that we'll probably have another meeting on this. One more.
Pardon me. Do you mind if I go 2 minutes? I've been standing here holding my hand up. Brianna Street, 101 Plymouth Circle. I greatly appreciate the Christian audience today and the many messages that were shared. But I would like to remind this council that their purpose is not religion. This council is set forth on legal matters. And if we are going to make pro-life a legal matter, and we're going to bring God into it, then why are we not talking about responsibility before life is even in the womb? Why are we not talking in our high schools about birth control instead of changing our genders? This needs to be discussed. It's a greater problem to have young people brought in and taken out of the world without their choice than it is to not be gender confirmed about who you are right now. Are we going to be discussing these things in high schools? Are our churches, who are such a strong force tonight, discussing morality with their young people? Are we discussing sex with these teenagers that don't understand? How can we reach out to the communities that don't go to church, who do not have parents in their home telling them what is or is not acceptable? How is the law going to reach that far? And the answer is they cannot. How is this county going to preserve families so that mothers like me can be at home and teach our children? I am a mom of 3, and my husband and I are $200,000 in debt due to school. I would not have had my children or been able to finance it without the help of the state. My last child was 4th percentile. They were going to give her dwarfism as her classification. We fasted and prayed for that child. They said she wouldn't be born more than 5 pounds. She was 6 pounds 10 ounces. She is perfect. But who was there? I had my church there. Where is the state? Are we going to administer to these young people that are not planning to have families? Planned Parenthood should not be a plan B, it should be before. Are we talking to them? Are we administering birth control? For the Catholic faith, it does not. I am sorry, but please be extra open with your children about the consequences and the weight of childbirth. This is something that needs to be added. Sorry, my time. Thank you.
I'm Jonathan, too. I live right up in Maple Street in Clinton, and I thank you, Commissioner. So I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ, a husband, of a wife, and a father of 5 amazing children. I'm a blessed man indeed. I appreciate your words, ma'am. We do indeed legislate morality. We don't want people raping. We have laws against that. We don't have people killing and murdering on the street. That's against the law. So behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward, like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate. Our Maker and Heavenly Father has designed us to be fruitful and multiply. And that fruit we bear, that new human life, is as important as arrows are to a warrior. We are given this amazing grace to bear children and raise them in the training and the admonition of the Lord. Fathers and mothers can be a blessing to their neighborhoods, communities, counties, and states when they are fruitful and realize that children are a heritage, a blessing from the Lord, and raise them to become useful, productive citizens that make our communities and world rejoice. Children are not a hindrance, an obstacle, a financial problem, an emotional stress. No. According to the one who made the heavens and the earth, children are a heritage and a blessing. We must not allow even a hint of murder in our thoughts and hearts when it comes to children in the womb. If Anderson County does not make their stand now, before any abortion-related facilities are occupying it, then we stand in stark contrast to the only wise God, the one who made it all, according to his perfect wisdom. How foolish we would be not to make this clear stance now and resolve to be a county who would agree with God about life in the womb and stand opposed to the murderous threats of those who would sacrifice human life on the altar of their own deceptive and selfish hearts. Anderson County, like Joshua, after he had led God's people into the promised land, must say, "And if it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your father served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites and those in whose land who you dwell. But as for me and my house, as for Anderson County, we will serve the Lord." Anderson County must say, "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Anderson County must testify to this truth, that children are indeed a heritage of the Lord, and take up this resolution to be a sanctuary for both the preborn and born alike. And we love mothers. We cannot allow them to choose murder. That is evil and sinful and wicked. We don't want to allow pro-choice rapists. It doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Ibbotson. I live at 107 Baker Lane in Oak Ridge, and I am the chair of the Anderson County Democratic Party. I am here to propose an amendment to the Anderson County Republican Party's proposal to make Anderson County a sanctuary county for the unborn. Those of us who live in Anderson County Democratic Party believe that all children should be protected. Here is the situation in Anderson County as of January 2021, as per the state of Tennessee. There are 15,872 children in Anderson County. 28% are receiving SNAP. 21% of the under 5 are receiving WIC. 4.5% are not covered by any health care. 39.3% are measured as overweight. 50.3% are economically disadvantaged students. 17.3% are chronically absent from school. 984 children were subject to child abuse. In Anderson County, out of 95 counties in Tennessee, 85th in school suspensions, we are 82nd for substantial abuse and neglect. 25th for the 3rd through 8th grade reading proficiency, 47th for 3rd to 8th grade math proficiency, and 37th in high school graduations. We believe that we must work to improve the lives of all children in Anderson County. The resolution before you should read, Anderson County should be a sanctuary for all children. Thank you.
Does this resolution plan on using the language as the Texas cities that
Name and address, please.
Abby, Sain, S-A-I-N, 649 Old Lake City Highway, that pro-choice groups are criminal organizations? Is that part of the platform here?
No, all this is really discussion.
But
about it.
if the resolution comes, will that be the basis, like the Texas cities did?
I
Will
couldn't
you
say that,
label
no.
Planned Parenthood as a criminal organization like the Texas cities?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay. This resolution is extremely inappropriate. It's religious-based. This government operates in a public sphere that is not religious-based. Religion should not factor into this at all. It's absolutely inappropriate. There will be lawsuits, personal ones. There will be whatever jurisdiction they happen to fall under. There will be laws. This will cost the county money. It is an unenforceable code. It can't be enforced. The people proposing this, have you adopted any kids? Have you fostered any kids? I know you haven't. Have you?
No, I
No,
haven't.
you haven't, have
I
you?
do have
So
children.
y'all want to extend your religious beliefs to cut off protections that I earned in the military because of your religious beliefs. That doesn't make sense. You don't get to do that. If I'm a Muslim, I want to propose an ordinance, no one can eat pork because based on my religion. That's what you're doing. It's the same thing. You're trying to take your religion and restrict my rights. You didn't serve in the military either, did you?
I tried.
Okay, well, I did.
I had epilepsy.
I fought for these rights. Y'all aren't going to take them away with this religious nonsense. Pack it in here with people from out of town all you want. We're not buying it. Elections are coming up, and this is fluff. This is propaganda talking points. Y'all are trying to get everybody upset. You don't even follow your own walk. You don't adopt. You don't foster. You don't care. You're not pro-life. If you're pro-life, you would have adopted. You would have fostered. You would have helped. You've not done a thing. All of you. This is inappropriate. Absolutely inappropriate.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Commissioner Meade.
Okay, it's great that there's so many people who are interested in some very important things, okay? I'm glad of that. There's a couple things that I want to make sure people understand, because there was some people implying that there's a right for all these people to speak at this meeting. In the state of Tennessee, that simply is not true. This commission allows you to come and speak. At legislative meetings in Tennessee, the citizens of the state are not allowed to speak. If you go to the state legislature and you're not a member of the legislature, they have to actually recess to let you talk if they decide to let you talk. And so you're here tonight because this county commission wants to hear from the public. So at every single meeting, we have a right for people to speak on things, particularly not on the agenda, because sometimes it's the things that are not brought up that are the most important. And so that is important, but we also need to limit that speech because it can't be taken over by one particular group. Okay, and the other thing is whatever this commission does do, we have to comply with state law. And so we can't just do anything we want because we're on the county commission and because we're the legislative body in the county. We have to comply with state law. If there's big changes in the U.S. Supreme Court and Roe versus Wade is overturned, that just means that for the people that are pro-life, you know, whatever you want to label that, have much stronger stance than they ever had before since Roe v. Wade was passed by the Supreme Court those years ago. Tennessee is a very conservative state. I don't see us going in a less conservative direction. But what government is really about is freedom and liberty. We are not supposed to get involved in religious things except for make sure they have their freedom to speak. Okay? I don't want the government telling me what my religion has to be. I don't want the government telling me what I have to think, and I don't think you do either. That's what government is supposed to be about. We're supposed to guarantee liberty and justice and freedom of the individual to the extent that we can. And that's what I think these people want to do. And I just want you guys to appreciate that and honor the fact that we are trying to do a good job. And so I think we need, I'll turn this back to the chair, but
Yeah,
I think we've had a lot of discussion. I think people know, I think we've heard all the different sides. And I just want to remind everybody that we have to comply with state and federal law. We have an oath to the Constitution of the United States and the state of Tennessee, and we are required to comply with state law. And so it's going to be the state guys that make most of the decisions. It's not going to be counties. Thank you.
First off, thank you, Commissioner Committee, for allowing us to speak and giving us that privilege.
Name and address, please.
My name is Avery Chandler. I am a lifelong resident of Anderson County, and my address is 186 Carden Road in Clinton. I am, most importantly, a servant of King Jesus and a member at Christ the King Church here in Clinton. I'm speaking in support of this resolution, and specifically to the point of that God promises rulers blessings and curses based on their judgments. Psalm 106 says, "They sacrificed their sons and their daughters to false gods. They shed innocent blood, the blood of their sons and daughters, whom they sacrificed to the idols of Canaan. And the land was desecrated by their blood. They defiled themselves by what they did. And they, therefore, the Lord was angry with his people and abhorred his inheritance." Abortion is the pagan ritual of child sacrifice to the gods and convenient and pleasure of our day. God promises curses on rulers and legislators who stand by while wickedness happens, not just those who pass wicked resolutions and wicked decrees, but those who sit by apathetically. Moreover, in Psalm 1, God actually promises a blessing to rulers and anyone who upholds his law. Psalm 1, verse 1, "Blessed is the man who does not walk with the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night." Most importantly, I would like to say that Jesus Christ is king over the state. The state is under Jesus Christ's authority. This is clearly stated in Psalm 2. And there's a blessing for legislators at the end, or a promise for legislators, and a warning and an exhortation. He says, "Therefore, kings and rulers, be wise. Be warned, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and celebrate his rule with trembling. Kiss his son, or he will be angry, and your way will lead to destruction, for his wrath can flare up in a moment. Blessed are all those who take refuge in him." Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Myra Mansfield, and I'm from Oak Ridge. I'm the chairwoman of the Anderson County Republican Party, but also I've spent the last 20 years of my life serving in pro-life ministry. And in fact, to the woman from Andersonville, we do have a center here in Anderson County dedicated to the support of women when they make pregnancy decisions and they need ongoing support. They can come to Choices Resource Center in Oak Ridge and have support for up to 3.5 years. We also do education in the schools. What I just wanted to point out was that we esteem dignity to life. To plant life, we esteem a lower amount of dignity. To animal life, and especially our pets, we esteem a level of dignity. And we heard last month about the animal shelter, and we had to sit here and listen to the process of euthanasia, and it troubled us in our hearts to have to listen to an animal being treated that way. But unborn babies, we esteem dignity to them as well. And we esteem dignity to the mother, the pregnant mother. Abortion hurts women. When a woman has an abortion, I won't get into the details like they did last month, but I can tell you this. It is painful, it is emotional, and it's messy. And almost every single woman walks away with a wound in her heart. Almost every woman that I've talked to in the last 20 years walks away saying, "I regret this. I wish I didn't do this." and it stays with them. That's one of the common things people say is, it always stays with me. Now, if a teenager is a cutter, do we stand back and say, oh, she has the right to hurt herself? No, we want to protect her. And that's one of the moving forces behind the pro-life movement, is we want to protect the woman as well. We want to help her see that she has options that are not going to cause her that kind of harm. She has people who will support her. She has the things that she needs for her baby: diapers, furnishing, baby clothing, all of that. The county has abundance of material wealth to help these young women so that they don't have to choose an option that hurts themselves. So I ask you, gentlemen and gentlewomen, please consider passing a resolution that does protect not only the unborn, but the women who choose abortion, as we look forward in anticipation of a bold Supreme Court ruling. Let's be out there in front too. And not only that, I challenge you, let's include a statement that constitutional rights begin in the womb. Thank you.
This will be the last one, and then we'll have another meeting next month once we put some things together.
I'm glad you let me speak. My name's Jim Wilson. I live at 123 Reservoir Road in Norris. And I just wanted to say, short and simple, it's fine that if all the churches in Norris, if all the churches in Anderson County want to go, if all of Anderson County wants to believe in the Lord, that's fine. But this is not a church. This is a government body that works with government projects. And you need to stick to government items. Religion, as you said, is not part of government. Last we checked, that religion and the separation of church and state is still in existence. And so when you said, Mr. Meade, that you have to follow the state and the federal rules, I expect that you would. And remove this resolution and stick to the things that you do. Look at how much time we've wasted on this nonsense tonight.
Oh, I don't think we've wasted any time.
Well, that's debatable. But there are bigger things that we should be working, that you should be working on as the government body that controls this county. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, this is going to conclude this session, and then I'm going to work with the mayor and see if she's got some ideas about trying to put something together. And then next month, what we'll try to do is do a more structured, where you can write in and ask to speak, and because we've got a lot of people here and a lot of people in the hallway, and I'm all about letting everybody speak, but it's just not possible to let everybody speak tonight. But I've always been one, you know, that's the great thing about living in America, is we can get up here and say what's on our mind and our hearts. Well, that's what this discussion is about, is how to put it all together, to see what people have to say. So that's what this is about.
Can you also be putting out how we can actually request to speak on our sides?
Sure.
Rather than it kind of just being an open forum and then shutting it short. And
Yeah.
there's still people out there. And still
Oh, I
people
know.
out there.
Yeah, I'm sure, because there was people lined up in the all the way out to the street.
So
But
we
we'll
have-
work something out.
Can we have that posted in the newspaper? That would be really
They
nice.
usually post it in newspaper and online.
No, like how we can request to
Sure.
speak.
Yeah. Okay. But I want to say thank you all so much for coming out and support both ways. And everybody that brought children, they were so well behaved. Great. Thank you.
Chair, I think there's a reason it's just plausible because a lot of these people will want to leave. Might want to take a 5-minute break while
Okay. 5-minute break. Yes, you did. I remember that. Okay. Sure, yeah, you know, I'm always open for discussion. Okay.
I need to take Caleb to the potty. Can you go back to mommy? Thank you, Randy.
Good to see you, Bill. Okay. You've been doing all right?
We're just going to meet you first.
That's tough to me. I was going to bring some fire. But
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to get up and speak, but I wanted to say, whatever you all legislate, you're legislating around. How's your airplane training go? Because they're asking for a more something else.
It was by all means on the field. Out the field, any weather.
We're saying all maintenance plans. It's just what more plans are we see it. I appreciate your role.
And Teresa. Nice to meet you. Curtis Akers. I've been a pastor of the Clinton Church of God for 28 years, so I'm a little while resident. Thank you so much, guys. I know it was a really tough to everybody. I don't remember about 2 others since you.
And it's been, at least for the past 8 years that I've been on commission, that if there's a group that has the same speech or thoughts or message, that they send one person to certify. Whether they're for, against, or, want to say I'm gay. But when you have a room full of people and you say, whoever wants to speak, come on, get in line. We're going to be here.
Go ahead and call the Operations Committee back to order, please. Next, we have the Anderson County Travel Policy requested by Commissioner Scott.
Where's Steve?
I can hear him out in the hall.
He's working. He's working the crowd. Well, I'd like him to hear this.
Yep.
If you don't mind. So which one are we doing first? The travel policy.
I'm not trying to stand away from you guys, this is where I was already sitting.
I understand.
I just moved on down because they needed room down there.
It looks like there's lots of seats now. Oh my God. I hope you don't think "look like Putin" sound like something I want to hear.
Mr. Scott, go ahead.
Thank you. Over the past 8 years of being a county commissioner, I've complained about the reimbursement of travel expenditures. According to the county's current travel regulations, employees get 58.5 cents per mile to cover fuel, insurance, and other costs associated with operating a personal vehicle. Just this past Friday, it was announced that as of July 1st, 2022, the rate will be increased to 62.5 cents per mile per the IRS standard mileage reimbursement rate. For meals and incidentals, we receive $30 a day. That's calculated at $10 per meal. That includes tips, tax, and delivery fees. This has been in place since August 29th, 1992, just shy of 30 years. I'm gonna let that sink in for a minute. 30 years. It's been amended 3 times since then, in 1998, 2001, and 2003, 19 years ago. In 2003, the minimum wage was $5.15 an hour. A cup of coffee was considered expensive at 62 cents. And although the state of Tennessee does not have a standard, the federal minimum wage is, I believe, 11.25 an hour right now. A cup of coffee will set you back at least $2.70.
7.25 still?
It's supposed to go up as of this year. So we currently get $10 a meal. When I was in Nashville just this past March for County Government Days, we stayed at the Doubletree Hotel in Nashville, which is where the conference was being held at. Breakfast there for coffee, it's $4 a cup. Eggs, bacon, and toast, at least $12. Lunch, you can get a grilled cheese sandwich for $15. The set standard by counties in Tennessee is to at least follow the GSA guidelines. And the GSA is the United States General Services Administration. The per diem schedule that they have computed is individually set per destination cities. Federal government even agrees that for some cities, $30 a day isn't much. According to their schedule, they would give you $79 per day in Nashville. That's figuring that breakfast will cost you about $18, dinner is $36, incidentals are $5 a day, and that's to help cover for taxes, tips, parking meters, having to park out in a lot. The first and last day of travel is calculated at $59.25, and that's just for the city of Nashville. With their schedule, as well as what many of the other counties in the state of Tennessee use, if you travel, you're automatically given 75% of that daily allowance. We still get 50% of the $30 a day. I've got two motions that I'm actually asking to make. It's pretty obvious that we need to update our travel policy. I'm asking for my first motion to be that we modify, effective immediately, we modify the Anderson County, Tennessee Comprehensive Travel Regulation, Section 17D. I've asked Annette to give you guys paper copies so that you'd be able to follow along much easier. But 17D falls in the section of transportation. It currently reads, only mileage for official business may be claimed for reimbursement. It goes on to say that a mileage expense form has to be submitted and so forth. But it doesn't say anything about keeping up with the IRS standards. So I'm asking for a motion to be made for 17D to include this section is to be updated or revised each budget period or when the IRS federal guidelines are altered. Section 19 under lodging and meals would be changed to say a meal and incidental allowance will be provided for travel per the U.S. General Sessions Administration, also known as the GSA. The guidelines and per diem schedule can be found online at www.gsa.gov. That's my first motion.
I'll second, but I have a question for you.
Sure.
Okay, where did I see something? Let me see your notes, because you said a lot of things.
Well,
The 50% is what was what? 50% is on a fractional day for a fractional day, is that right?
Yeah, what they, as an example, as a county commissioner who not only attends, but I'm involved in some of the committees. There's generally 3 committees for our conferences that meet at one conference. It's CTAS, it's TCSA, as well as TCCA. I serve on committees and or boards where their meetings start at approximately 8:30 in the morning. So I go the night before. especially when it's like in Chattanooga or Nashville, Gatlinburg.
Or Memphis.
Well, yeah, Memphis is a given. But Tracy or Commissioner Wandell and Meade and I, we always end up traveling the night before, but we never get any allowance. And as it turns out, we're due 50% of the travel allowance for the time that we're on the road to go to that meeting. I mean, there's times I pack a bologna and cheese sandwich and take it with me because I know that I'm not going to be able to stop for dinner. So I'm asking to come up to the standards that the majority of the state even follows, which is a simple enough guideline where you go online and it's set for those cities. There's one that's set for Knoxville, for Chattanooga, for Nashville, for Memphis. In Memphis, parking is $20. Actually, in Nashville, it's $50 a day.
Yeah, some places it's $50 a day to park your car.
Just for parking.
And the hotels don't even have any unpaid parking.
Correct.
Do you think this is something that should go to HR, or do you want to try
Well,
to accomplish that here?
that's on my second motion.
Sorry.
And the reason why I have two motions going on this is because this is so out of date that it tells you to make sure that you get reimbursed for long-distance calls and facsimile transactions. Not even fax, but facsimile. It talks about taxis, which we now have Uber and so forth. So I'm simply, I mean, I have nothing to gain out of this. I simply want the new commission, or at least from July 1st, because of the way the IRS is doing it, I don't want anybody else to have to pull money out of their pockets to do their job.
Yeah.
Not only in commission, but it's
Yeah, this is a whole
countywide.
countywide, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna split both motions, right?
Yeah, sorry, so I've got two motions going.
Okay, so this first motion, is there any other discussion on the motion?
Restate that.
Well,
Oh, you got a question?
Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry.
Circle back around, but I was curious if Kim had kind of looked at this, or how this, if she had any idea what the monetary impact might be to the employees.
So yes, this is something that I've actually spoken to finance about before, over the years, because where I came from and doing state and federal grants, we followed the GSA. So when I got here and we didn't follow the GSA, I was quite taken aback by that, because that was the standard 10 years ago, and we're that far behind. It does impact, if you do any traveling, it's going to impact your pocketbook by the standards that we currently have in place. So I have reviewed this with the finance department before, prior to this.
How many of our employees are, I know that varies, but it seems to me like, is it mostly elected officials that are traveling and get
No.
reimbursed, or is it mostly just?
No, you're going to find a lot of our employees, we're required, it's in my resolution that our staff is required to keep our training up to date. So various departments are going to have certified employees that are required to go for trainings to meet the requirements of our position, our job description. So to keep those up, you're going to have to travel to get those. Now, mind you, during COVID, everything kind of changed, but on a regular basis, most of us have to travel to obtain that type of training.
Thank you.
Tim, I got a question. Kim, could you go? Do you think you need to start from scratch then? Because this is, like Teresa said, basically a 30-year-old document.
That'll be motion two.
Sorry.
Commissioner Meade?
okay, well, all I was gonna say is this is really something that the finance people need to take a look at, recognize that it needs to be updated. I think following the GSA guidelines just makes sense, because not only does it change over time to adapt for inflation, really, is what we're talking about. Now, if it was just the commissioners, I wouldn't even be that worried about getting this up to date. It'd be okay. I don't know about you guys, but the first time I qualified to run, I didn't know we were paid.
Right,
And I'm on the charter commission and we get paid nothing,
right.
okay? Or nor do we get any travel expenses or anything. But this does need to be updated, absolutely. I'm glad you identified this. But there's some places on here, there's some of this that is so out of date. You know, reimbursement for lunch meals will not be made unless you travel overnight, or if you're required by the county to be outside 50 miles. If you're
Well-
outside 50 miles, you get lunch. Well, that's not the way it works in GSA. You
Right.
have to be overnight, or you have to have had a period of rest required during your travel. And so this certainly does need to be updated, but I think the people in finance or in the finance committee, I mean, this is one of their jobs. I think I talked with the mayor and she was saying this really needs to go to the finance committee and then come back to commission. Because commission, this is the kind of thing that is clearly in the purview of the finance department to bring to commission. And if we don't do that, then there's special rules and we're kind of going around the process. But I appreciate you bringing this up because I admit when I get that $15 for the first day that I started at 6 in the morning to get to where I had to be, and then I go to a hotel that lunch is $30. That's if you really skim.
Yeah.
And I always take a protein bar or two with me to go with my lunch, for if I'm trying to save on money. But this does need to be updated. And the GSA guidelines, I worked with DOE companies and the Department of the Military for a long time, and they're very reasonable. It gives you enough to cover your expenses. You're certainly not making any money on it. And it's designed so you can't actually profit from it. I know I complain when I go to places and it's $50 a day for parking. But being able to travel in Europe, there's some thing on here to kind of say that you really have to take a county vehicle unless there's some reason why you just can't do it. Well, one of the reasons the vehicles aren't available, and the other one is I'm a member of a bunch of committees that have these early meetings and stuff, so I always have to leave early, and other people wouldn't want to have to ride with me. My wife doesn't even like riding with me when we go on vacation. And so yes, but I think this needs to be moved on to finance so it can come back through the proper process. And it can be done pretty quickly, because they can look, I think they could have this ready for maybe even for the next commission meeting, but I don't know when the next finance meeting is, so. I think we need to give them a little bit of time, and then a full finance meeting, and then forward it on to commission. I think that's the proper way to handle this.
Mayor?
I guess I'm making a motion to.
No,
She's
I've already
already got
made a
one.
motion. That was my first motion.
Okay.
And what you were tapping in on falls into my second motion.
I agree with Commissioner Meade. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And when I saw this on the agenda, I did talk to Director Holbrook, and he said, yes, this is needed, updating for a long time, and Finance Committee would be the best place. Some of the discussion about mileage, they do follow whatever the
IRS.
law is.
Right.
And then also, there are some differences. So for instance, if you're with a state or you're doing some state function, a lot of times they set limits that may be different than our limits. And so finance is following those rules. And, you know, as far as some of the rules like distance, a lot of that and money, a lot of that is built in to protect the taxpayer. And so probably a lot of folks remember years ago, an elected official in Knoxville buying their lunch with these per diems, or they got lobster back when Regas was in business and got 2 lobster meals to go because it was allowed on a reimbursement. So, you know, we do have to design this with taxpayer protection in mind, and I usually look at it myself as, I'm gonna eat anyway. If I were here, I'd be eating just as if I were there. And so what's that middle that is fair to the taxpayer but also is fair to the person traveling? So I just was gonna
Commissioner Meade beat me to it, but I was gonna say finance would make the most sense. That way Robbie can fill in what law is per comptroller.
So I'll go ahead and restate my first motion. It would be effective immediately to modify the Anderson County, Tennessee Comprehensive Travel Regulations, Section 17D, to include a side note stating this section to be updated/revised each budget period or when the IRS federal guideline is altered. And that is the one that's to do with the mileage because of the IRS changing theirs as of July 1st. And Section 19 to read, a meal and incidental allowance will be provided for the travel per the U.S. General Services Administration, also known as the GSA. The guidelines and per diem schedule can be found online at www.gsa.gov. That's my first motion.
Okay, and your motion is not to send it to Finance Committee.
That's coming up in a second motion. This is only on the first motion, just to modify.
But you're wanting,
Because because that way, the travel policy we currently have will include the fact that the IRS has upped the percentage as of July 1st. I don't expect this to happen overnight, but this portion I do. Section 19 is with regards to let it be by the GSA standard as opposed to the $30 a day.
Okay.
That is the first motion. Sorry.
all right, any other discussion on the first motion? Annette, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Wandale? Commissioner Meredith? Absent. Commissioner Anderson?
I was waiting to see how everybody else was gonna vote. I'm just kidding. Yes.
Commissioner Haney? Commissioner Yeager?
Aye.
Commissioner Meade?
No.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
And Chair Isbell?
No.
3 ayes and 2 noes. 3 absent.
What
That's
is it?
4-4. That, legally, that's 4-4, because absent people are noes.
Or the same as no?
This is not a legislative body, is it? I thought it was only for legislative bodies like budget and full commission.
Operations Committee, I believe, is a required committee of the county government.
Statutory?
Hmm?
Statutory.
That's the word I was looking for. I'll defer to you. I'm not deferring.
If I'm found to be
We can-
wrong,
we
I'll
can-
certainly
we
yield
can
to
send it to full commission without,
somebody corrects
Okay.
it.
without a recommendation.
Do you know?
I agree with going ahead with this. I agree with that it needs to go to finance, and this needs to be corrected.
That's coming in the second
And
motion.
that's what we're about. But she's saying this will immediately take effect.
The
That means
two
like a 2 week.
items would actually take effect, because this is from 1992, and it basically says, you're gonna get what you get, is $30 a day,
Yeah,
and
and that's what we've been getting, and it's still effective.
anyways. July 1st, the IRS will be upping their mileage, and so that's why I was wanting it to be effective immediately.
Okay, I will say that finance will meet July 11th, so I doubt that will make too much of a difference between the 1st and the 11th, but we'll act on that day.
Okay, second motion.
Okay. Is for the Director of Human Resources and the Director of Budgets and Accounts to meet and review and suggest any modifications to bring us up to current standards. It would be taken to the Finance Committee and then approved by the law director before coming back to commission.
Is that it?
Yep.
Second.
Any other discussion? Annette,
Other than I absolutely agree.
Annette, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Yeager?
Yes.
Commissioner Meade?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Chair Hazel?
Yes. Motion passes. Okay. We still got the floor.
You have more to do?
I had number 8. That's all there is on the travel policy.
Next is number 8, Anderson County Travel Policy requested by Commissioner Scott. No, I'm sorry, Salary Compensation Commissioners requested by Commissioner Scott.
It's to increase the commissioner's pay as of July 2022. I've requested by 20%. People are gonna fall off their chairs going, oh my God, that's such a big raise. Commissioners get $300.92 every 2 weeks. A 20% increase would amount to $30.09 per week before taxes. Again, I've got nothing to gain off of this, but it's mainly to encourage the new commission coming in. I want the new commissioners, at least the ones that are coming into District 7, to get behind the wheel of their car and go into the county and find out what's going on in the county. You've got parks and recreations, you've got your animal shelters, you've got the schools being principal for a day, you've got the senior center, the county fair. You guys have no idea what you're up against. You're gonna have to get in the car and go. With gas being at $5 a gallon, that'll get you, what, 5 gallons of gas before taxes? That's the first of my 2 motions. To have that effective from July of 2022, July 1st.
We got a motion, do we have a second?
A comment, they would have to be actually September 1st, I think, when the new commission comes in. You can't raise the salaries until that time.
Fine, let
that's
it be September, whatever.
Yeah, so it'd have to be September 1st by state law.
That's fine.
Are you seconding that motion?
I'll second the motion with the change that it has to be September 1st.
Okay. Any other discussion? Commissioner Anderson?
What, we get how much? $392 every time? I need to talk to my accountant.
$300.92 before taxes. After tax.
$300.92.
Yeah, I've, because I'm a family of 1, I claim the 1. I get $258.94.
Well, I know other counties, it varies in
You
other
just do this
counties.
for
I
the
think
money.
Union County, maybe their commissioners make $25 a month or something. It's $300 or $400 a month in Campbell County, so
It varies.
It varies.
I mean, in Knox County, it's considered a full-time job and they get tens of thousands of dollars.
About 36,000 plus benefits and a secretary and an office.
P cards.
Other than that, they don't get any pay.
well, I don't think anybody that runs or that serves on it is in it for the money. So
I didn't say they were in it for the money. I want to encourage people to start attending some of these meetings. One of the things that's pretty embarrassing, and I'll go ahead and say this, one of the things that's very embarrassing is the fact that we've got 16 commissioners that serve 8 districts. When I go to a commissioners' conference, there's usually 3 or 4 of us there. There's Commissioner Mead, Commissioner Wandell, and myself. We are there taking all of the classes, doing all of the networking. Do we drink? Oh, you better believe we drink. When you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you go have breakfast at 7 a.m., you have to be dressed and ready to go at 7 o'clock in the morning. Your first meeting starts at 8 or 8:30 in the morning, and you are literally on the go until 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. You better believe I drink. There's networking to be done. There's people, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that have the same issues that our county has, and you've got to get to know them, and the best way is face-to-face.
Yeah, she's not exaggerating
I'm
how busy these
embarrassed,
things
and
are.
I'm embarrassed over the fact that when I go to a conference with my $30 a day, that they're going, well, Teresa, you just had breakfast. Why are you grabbing an apple and a protein bar? Well, because I know I can't afford lunch. Well, let me get that for you. No, really.
My wife of 53 years has stopped going to these meetings with me, because if she goes with me, she doesn't get to see me much. Because I mean, I leave for meetings at 8 o'clock or so in the morning, and she doesn't want to get up before that for breakfast usually, and then I have a short break at lunch, and then it starts again, and it goes on into the evening, and she hardly sees me, and so she's decided now she hardly ever goes to them, because we're just too dang busy. And again, just like some of the other commissioners, I'm on a whole bunch of committees. I chair the Veterans Committee, I'm on the Transportation Committee, I'm on the Governmental Affairs Committee. There's all the stuff that we do in addition to the other training and stuff that we have to attend to meet state law requirements. And trust me, you don't become a county commissioner because it pays well, okay? On the other hand, it needs to pay enough to cover at least a good portion of your expense for doing it. I think that would be fair. I don't think we want to get to a point where if you're not wealthy, you don't want to be in government because you can't afford it. I probably, by some people's standards, I'm probably wealthy because I'm retired from the Navy and retired from the labs, and I get Social Security. Okay, I'm pretty comfortable. My wife and I do just fine, okay? But it shouldn't be that you have to be well off financially to be willing to put the time into county government. Because we need people that stand for the people. And the thing is, the thing I like about Tennessee government, nobody in Tennessee government makes any money being in government hardly. And you gotta be the governor or something to even get a salary that's worth talking about. I mean, you understand that a state legislator gets like $2,200 a year? A year. That's a lot better than we get, but they don't get much. Anyhow, thank you.
Commissioner Anderson?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, we are about to pass a budget, hopefully, next week, that I think gives a 2% raise for teachers and a 5% raise for other county employees, and I just don't feel right in an election year voting yes for a raise for myself, so it's not why I got into county commission, so I will love you, but I'm voting no.
I really don't care. I mean, I'm just being honest. I mean, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm bringing it up because I think that, for one, for the past 8 years, I've been very, very passionate about being a commissioner. I've stayed very involved in the county. I've been the only commissioner that's ever attended the fire chief's orientation because I wanted to know what the liabilities were for a fire chief. I sat on the fire commission or the fire committee commission for a number of years and felt it was necessary for me to know what I was talking about, let alone what they do for a living. I don't want the commissioners that are coming in to assume this is going to be a piece of cake. it's nothing, it's no big deal. We just go to a meeting a couple of times a month, and that's all there is to it. They've got to be able to be encouraged to go out and meet the people that are in the district, meet the people that voted for them, and understand that going out into the public is important. I don't want them sitting at home just assuming somebody's just gonna call them or send them a text message. They've gotta see some of this stuff for themselves. Like I said, it's not up to me to say how much anybody should get, but I just don't think that $130 or whatever it was a week is sufficient.
Any other discussion? Annette, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Anderson?
No.
Commissioner Yeager?
No.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Chairman Isabel?
No. Motion fails.
The second of my motions is with regards to county commissioners, and to encourage the new ones especially to attending their conferences. We've got a number of people that will sign up for a conference, they'll get the travel check, and they're nowhere to be seen at the conference. I've called them out on it before, I've caught them. But needless to say, to encourage people to actually attend the conference, I wanted to request that a $50 stipend be given to the commissioners for those conferences where there's overnight stay. However, the only way they can receive the $50 is to bring back the receipt from when they checked into the hotel, showing that they were there on the first day, and the one that they got for checking out of the hotel on the last day. You'd be surprised how many of them have, in the past, picked up their travel check, and they show up on the last day to pick up their badge. They could simply turn in the 2 receipts and get their $50 afterwards. So there.
Have a second?
Too bad.
Motion fails like a second.
There you go. I'm done.
Okay. All right, next is discussion to possibly form a task force comprised of Operations Committee, School Board, and Sheriff's Department to take up enhancement of school safety. Talked to Director of Schools, Tim Parrott. He's all for it. And we've got a member of the Sheriff's Department here who's going to speak about it. They do a good job. I feel like that they do an excellent job in some degree. But what we're doing as concerned citizens, is there anything that we can do to make it any better?
Just continue our relationship with Lieutenant Governor McNally and Representative Reagan. We need their support to keep the SRO funding that they have in place now, where they're paying a big portion of the salary. I've been in talks with Dr. Parrott today, Mr. Deal. I've even spoke to Jay Yeager a couple days ago. I'm supposed to meet with him again tomorrow. We're trying to put a plan together where we can make the school resource position more appealing. As you all, we've talked about in the past, recruiting's hard with law enforcement in general. The school officer position is really hard. So we're really trying to lay out a package that makes it more appealing for officers that are getting closer to their retirement, or just looking for more of a better schedule for their home life. And if we can come up to this, what we're discussing, and work it out, I feel like we'll be able to keep those positions filled better than we have. But it is something we're working on, and we just ask you to just reach out to our representatives and ask them to continue to force. That's really a big key, is keeping that SRO funding in place that I think it's been about 2 years now, is that right, Mayor? So. it's been huge support, so.
Chief Deputy Galloway, I personally appreciate everything that you do and how conscious you are of everything that goes on in Anderson County. I do appreciate that. Commissioner Meade?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, I attended a full-day conference that was talking specifically about this over at the airport. It was for this whole district of Tennessee. There's 18 counties that are involved in this. And I'm happy to report that the law enforcement in all of these 18 counties tell their police officers, if there's a shooting going on, you go towards the gunfire and you stop the attack. We don't care if you're the first person or the last person. If there's still an attack in progress, any of the law enforcement that are present need to go to the scene. And so I think we've seen things like that have not happened. People have waited for the tactical team to arrive an hour later, and that just doesn't work. I also want to point out that there's a program that's now being moved around throughout the nation called Faster is Better, and it involves training for the staff and teachers and everything in first aid and how to spot these people that are problems early instead of waiting for the attack to start and nobody knows what to do. It also trains the students. Like for instance, what's the best thing a student can do if there's something like that going on in the school? Well, get out of there, leave, go out a window, go out a door, and get the heck away from there. That's what they need to do. There's been schools, and you've seen it, hide under your desk. Oh, that's real hard to find them there, right? If you're some wacko. And so they need to know that they need to get out of there. And if there is no choice, you'd be amazed. If you pick up chairs and everything else you can and you attack a person, even an armed person, they can be stopped. Years ago, the Unitarian Church in Knoxville had a guy that went wacko and started shooting people, and they jumped him, and they stopped him. And that's happened a lot of places. We've had guys on trains take guys that have multiple submachine guns and drop and take them out when they were unarmed. If you just stand there, they get to do whatever they want to do, and I just don't believe we want to let them. I don't want them to run out of ammunition, and that's why they stop. Okay, and so I think we need to look into this Faster is Better program. It was started in Ohio. I was going to tell you a real quick story. I was at a gun rights policy conference many years ago when this program just started. And the guy there said, we're opening up 25 positions for this school that's being paid for by an organization in Ohio, so it wasn't going to cost the teachers or the state or the local governments anything. And they had 25 openings. And their concern was they couldn't get 25 people from the schools to volunteer to go through this week-long training. They had 1,000 people that signed up to take that class. 1,000. And so there's people out there to do it. I don't think anybody should be required to get into a position where they're trained to try to resist an attacker. I don't think we should require that of school teachers. My dad was a school teacher, I don't think we should do it. But there's a lot of people that would be willing to volunteer, and if they do, they need to be properly trained so they understand how this works, and they can coordinate with the police that do come in, and those police need to go right to the scene. Anyhow, that's what I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any recommendations from this committee about going forward? Commissioner Anderson?
I would make a motion to maybe have the mayor reach out to our legislative representatives, Reagan and Wendell and McNally, and encourage them to keep this level of funding. But I would also want that motion to include, hearing Commissioner Meade speak, and from what I've read in the news about Uvalde and everything, and what I know about my own son, who's been in active shooter training since he was 4 years old now, is I feel like we need to put not just funding SROs, we need more funding for mental health counselors and increasing that number in the schools, because I'm sure having that amount of stress of always preparing for that and knowing that could happen any minute takes a big toll on our kids. I know it's taken a big toll on parents worried about sending their kids back to school in the fall. So I guess my motion would be to encourage us, the state, to continue the level of funding for SROs, but also to increase some funding for mental health counselors for all schools to partner with the SROs.
Good idea.
That's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Any
The thing is, like this FASTER program I was talking about, what it does is it teaches staff and teachers in the school the specific skills to help spot these people that are having problems. And then you can get them help preemptively if possible. But knowing but the difference between a proper response and a no response to a person that's a wacko, particularly with firearms, is just not the answer. And it wasn't long ago, you understand, that the police would arrive, they wouldn't go inside, they wouldn't let the ambulance people go in, and many, many people, children, died by bleeding to death because they didn't get basic first aid to stop bleeding. I mean, it's gotta be a standard in this county and in this state that we don't let people die from bleeding to death when there's a possibility to go in there and take care of them. And if the people that are already there are trained in stopping blood and then chest injuries, which are common with gunshot wounds, does anybody know what a chest seal is? Okay, I see there's a few people here that have been through the training. If a person needs a chest seal and you don't give them one, they die very quickly. What it amounts to is a piece of cellophane put over the hole, is what it amounts to keep them from bringing air in around their lungs and making their lungs stop working. But anyhow, yes, I'm in support of this.
Okay, we've got a motion, second. Any other discussion? Mayor?
Just very quickly, I'd be happy to reach out and do that. And then also to the mental health component, I did meet with Greg Deal with the school system. I know they don't want to come and share what a lot of the security measures are, because you don't want to broadcast that to the larger community, but I'm sure they'd be willing to talk about the mental health programs that they already have going on and that they are amping up. They're adding some new programming. So they are doing that. And perhaps Dr. Parrott could come speak maybe at the next meeting or at full commission and kind of mention some of that programming. They do recognize that. And then on the Stop the Bleed, Region 2 District Homeland Security Committee that's a 16-county group. They do extensive training that is available to all communities in the schools. I do know that Nathan Sweet with our EMS works with the schools on various programs and safety plans. And in fact, when I met with Greg Deal, they had just finished a full assessment and review with Nathan Sweet at EMS. So they do have a lot of things going on, and I just wanted, since those were touched on, wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, they do. They have a very comprehensive plan. Any other discussion? We're not spending money, so we can do this by voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Next is the redistricting plan requested by Commissioner Mead.
Yes, thank you. I've done some walking around lately, and I found out that a lot of people don't know that the county's been redistricted. And there were changes to the district boundaries that, even though I was part of the redistricting committee, and as a county commissioner, I voted to approve a redistricting plan, I found out at the very last minute there were changes made that in some cases were significant just in the city of Oak Ridge. Now, I've got some maps here. I got these maps from the state office in Knoxville. Did I give you one of these? Well, it's not gonna affect you. This is just Oak Ridge. It does affect you. It won't affect you now, I guess, Teresa. But what I'm concerned about is that I went and talked to people in some of these areas that the districts were changed. I did not find a single person, I talked to a bunch, that said they had received a notification. And I'm talking about people I know are registered voters because I got the list, okay? And I didn't find a single person out of a fairly significant number, okay, that had received a notification of their change of district. Okay. Okay, every 10 years, the state and the counties are required to redistrict based upon the 10-year census numbers. Okay, in this, what this map shows is in Oak Ridge, there's districts 6, 7, and 8, okay? And there were areas that were moved from 6 to 8. There were areas from 8 that were moved to 6. There were areas from 7 that were moved to 6. There were areas from 6 that were moved to 7. And I'm talking about 400 or 500 homes that were changed in district. And I'm talking about probably that many, probably half of those people anyhow are voters. And I don't think they've been properly notified. And I just want to make sure that we make sure, and I went and talked to the Election Commission, and I verified this afternoon that the list, the map that I got from the state is in fact what they have at the Anderson County office. The map that was posted in the commission office a week and a half or so ago, it was not actually correct. Okay, and when I voted for the district change, I specifically asked if there were, if I knew there were some changes in various places around the county, okay, because of changes of population. But I asked if District 6 was changed, and I was told there's no changes in District 6. Well, I'll tell you what, there were significant changes in District 6.
Who made the change?
Well, it was the state came in with some problems at the last minute that they wanted some things balanced. And it just happened, okay? And then now it came back to us. There were problems, the state had problems because people were not turning, first of all, the census, people weren't turning in the results, and so the federal government was late. And then when it finally got to the state, it was really late, and nothing got started on time. And what they ended up with, I think, it meets the guidelines exactly, okay? Because it's based upon population, not voters. Okay, and I'll be honest, I wasn't real happy with the changes in my district because I had 2 major high population areas with a lot of voters replaced with the school, the athletic fields, parking lots, and malls that have 0 voters and no residences at all. I had one major area near Oak Ridge High School that in the entire big area, there are 9 houses, and there are no other residences of any kind in that whole area. And so I'd rather have the one that had 500 houses, quite honestly. But the way what they ended up with, I don't have any problem. I think this is perfectly fine. I hope the rest of the county is the same. But I think it wasn't communicated very well, and maybe I'm not going to be here 10 years from now to redo this again, but I'm hoping that the message will be left that this needs to be communicated more clearly, because particularly the voters, if they've got a change in district, think about it. Has any of you ever gone into your precinct and been told you're not registered here? What? There's a couple of words I could have used, but it's ungood. All 4 of my daughters would have probably used a different word. Okay, but, and so that's all I wanted to bring up. I think what they did was lawful. What we ended up with is perfectly, is okay. It meets all the rules. But I'm still concerned that the citizens that had their districts changed could end up showing up their precincts in this upcoming election and find out that it's no longer correct. In this last primary, we had really, really low turnout because there wasn't much to vote for in the last primary, to be honest with you. There were some areas where it was pretty important. Some of the districts, I think it was pretty important, particularly in the eastern part of the county. But this just needs to be a little bit more clear. And I've talked with John Reagan about this too, because the legislature is partly responsible for how this goes down. But I just can't believe that as a county commissioner and part of the process this has to be approved, that I found out a month later that there were major changes to my own district. And there's all these places where I've already talked to people about my campaign and put signs, got signs ready for their yards and it got their support. And now I find out they're not even in my district anymore. They can't vote for me. I mean, I still like them and I still want them to know what's going on, but the fact of the matter is, when you're running a campaign, you'd like to talk to people that are in the district that can vote for you.
Well, Steve, I'm kind of surprised because when Mark Stevens was here getting a tongue lashing over their website, where he said all the information could be found on the website, and we're going to be sending out cards. Remember, he said
Yeah.
that they were they were going to be sending all this mail out to all these people to let them know
Yeah.
that their district had changed.
Well,
And they're
see, now,
they're not aware.
I
of
have
it,
not
and-
talked to everybody, and there may be people that got those. All I know is the list I got the
But
week
what I'm
of early
saying is-
voting for the primary did not reflect any of these changes.
I think it's wrong that the election commission didn't notify the commissioners of this is what your new boundaries are, and these are the streets you've lost or you've gained and so forth. If
Well,
anything, you should be taking it
to
up
give
with
them a
the
little
election
break, they
commission.
assumed what they received
not
back
giving
from the
anybody
state
a
was what we
break.
approved. Okay, the
It's
election
up to
commission just
them to
assumed.
notify you and/or
Yeah.
anyone else that's running that these are what your boundaries are. It's unfortunate that
Yeah.
you've only just found out a month ago that some of your areas had changed.
No, I found out
If
last
any-
week.
What I'm saying is that you need to take your points to the election commission and make them aware of the fact that you were never notified.
Well, the fact that I was notified, I think, is an issue, but I'm more concerned that the citizens of the county I'm not confident that the ones that have had their district changed have been notified in such a way that they recognize it. Because the ones I'm talking to, now maybe I just talked to the wrong people. I probably talked to 50. I think that's a pretty good sampling across my district. Although I found out some of them weren't in my district later. And I went to the districts that I lost and asked them, and they said, no, we didn't receive anything, so. Maybe they don't read their mail. Maybe I'm just being crazy. But if they haven't been notified properly, they need to be. And so we just need to pass on that. We need to check on it, and we need to make sure that it happens. It's not really a motion, I just want to bring it up for discussion.
Okay. All right, next we have the approval of the letter to the EPA. Mayor?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve. I've read the letter, I have a copy of it here. I think the mayor again did a fine job. And I think it's really encouraging that we're getting this kind of response.
Yes,
And
it
I'll let you
is.
describe what the letter's about.
Yep.
Well, let me second it first then.
Okay?
Second it first. Mayor?
This is intergovernmental, did not have a quorum today. So this was a motion by Commissioner Wandell that was approved at the intergovernmental that asked that a letter be drafted to EPA Region 4 and TDEC expressing gratitude, and then also asking them or letting them know that we stand ready to continue to work with EPA and TDEC in order to clean up the American nuclear site. So that's the purpose behind this.
Okay, we have a motion, second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Next is new business. Do we have any new business come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to old business, which will be the, Mayor, do you want to come up and speak about some of this? And our budget chairman's here too.
Sure. The two things that have happened so far with regard to what Commission asked for, after the last meeting, Brian Young got a quote for the fiber and whatever technology is needed for the shelter. That was approved by Budget Committee at Thursday's meeting. That will come to full commission on Monday for that funding approval. And then on the veterinary director, I worked with Catherine Ajmeri on that description. She posted that request for proposal on June 6th, and she will get responses to that, and it will be in her responsibility to do that bid opening.
Okay.
What's the expiration for that RFP, do you know?
I know she posted it for 3 weeks,
Okay.
and I did not pull up that date when the opening is. Normally, she opens them at 2 p.m., but I just did not, whatever 3 weeks from June 6th
Okay,
is.
thanks.
Yep.
Any other commissioners? Someone from the audience want to speak? Come on, come up, yeah. That way the people at home can hear you.
You are on TV.
That's good. I'll try to turn this way. I'm Katrina Hall, 124 Lone River Lane. I just want to understand the timing of the issues. I know the mayor talked about the budget was approved, but what's the timing for that? And then also trying to understand some of the regulations for that. How will the cameras actually be traced? Who's going to be responsible for looking at that? And are all of those things part of this advisory committee? Is this advisory committee going to be recommending these types of things, or is this something that the commission will be making decisions on, or something that the mayor will be making decisions on, or something that the shelter director will be making decisions on? Because all of those are important. And I don't think any of that's really been discussed in detail about how these things are really going to run.
How that typically works is when we have a committee just like this one here, we make a recommendation to full commission. And so the advisory committee will make a recommendation, and it will go from whoever the chairman is, will bring it to operations committee or the full commission. And the IT department advisory committee, I'm sure that Brian will have something to do with that too, won't he?
So on the IT, as Brian explained to Budget Committee, there isn't sufficient, I guess, I don't know what the technology term is.
Infrastructure,
bandwidth.
yeah.
Yes, and bandwidth and infrastructure currently there at the shelter. So the first step is putting this technology in. He cannot tell you a date on that. He said that to Budget Committee. It could be 2 months, it could be 6 months. As an example, Commission authorized last year a budget transfer to do phone upgrades at the senior center. We started that process in September, October of 2021. It was not until April of 2022 that all those numbers were ported over and that technology was upgraded by the providers. So I do not have, you can ask Brian every month for an update. I'm sure he'll be happy to get that to you. That's completely out of my hands and on with the providers. As regards to the camera policy, this is something that I have asked multiple times over the years, both at the security level, at security committees, as well as IT advisory committee. What is the policy for cameras? So while Director Porter may be up here saying that he's happy with cameras, I'm also not happy with what will be on that camera, who will have access to it, will it be used to just make sure that everything's running smoothly, or will it be used to be taken out of context or to harass an employee? In the same regard, I've had, in terms of who has access to this, I've had citizens come up to me and say, they had an elected official say, why did you go into the mayor's office? And so I have repeatedly asked, who has access to the cameras? And this is one of the things that, in my opinion, all cameras should be under the sheriff's department. And it should be, if we're in a security situation, it's up to the sheriff's department to monitor those. But we have, over time in Anderson County government, various organizations and different departments getting their own camera systems, having those cameras on real time with their phones. And I think there are some real issues there. If the Knoxville News Sentinel comes, you know, what is public record and what is not? And so that was actually put in the form of a motion, even predating this particular issue. And Jay is supposed to provide a written legal opinion on that. So that's something that the government's going to have to work on in totality, not just about the animal shelter. You know, I view it as it's a public record. But I know there are some particular operations that are not going to be a public record. It's going to be something about, you know, a security protocol with the judges or the courts. And we're going to have to flesh that out.
Okay. Commissioner Meade.
Yeah, I was talking with one of the people that I talked to as I do my walk around the neighborhoods. I understand that, you know, the telephone companies are going to great trouble to expand this 5G telephone coverage. And I understand that the 5G systems that I think will include the area where the shelter is, include an internet service that's relatively fast. I'm not sure if it's fast enough for everything that we'll need if we have all these cameras and stuff, okay? But that might be a word. And the other thing I just wanted to mention is that there was starting to be some kind of a concern that we were getting to where the final budget's gonna be approved. Okay, and that is true. And then at almost every commission meeting after that, the budget will be modified. It isn't like we have something and that's it, we can't change it again until next year. Okay, and so I don't want to make sure that folks on the air and also here understand that you have a final budget and it gets submitted to the state and they have to approve it and all that other kind of stuff. But the commission then comes in, and because we have a certain amount of money in the bank and all that stuff, we have to manage it all. And almost every single commission meeting, there's some changes to the budget. Money moved from one part of the budget to another part of the budget, or new money taken from our cash reserves to buy something specific. So don't think that the project you're interested in, if it doesn't get done between now and when the final budget is passed, that means it's out of luck. Because that's an ongoing process. But we do have to, just like you have to balance your checkbook, we have to balance it here too. Thanks.
And as an afterthought on that, the Budget Committee did include that funding in the regular budget as well as an ongoing, so that the budget coming to you all to be voted on does include that.
We'll include that.
Not included is the veterinary, because we don't know what the proposals are gonna be. I mean, we can't, we don't know if it's gonna be 5,000, 12,000, 20,000. So once we have those from vets, we'll be able to come back to commission and make that request.
And we will handle it.
Anything else?
Whenever she's done. I was just gonna remind everybody that the nominating committee is meeting in room 118A tomorrow at 5:30 to look over the applicants and get that committee set up. And do we take floor nominations at
We do.
the committee? So if there's still people interested, just come to that.
That was actually one of my questions. A couple of people have reported sending over by fax applications, myself included, that didn't appear on the published list. So that's a good piece of information. As regards the shelter, a couple of things that we were concerned about include several people who in the past have been very active at the shelter, have been volunteers, for some reason are still blocked from accessing the ability to comment on the shelter's Facebook page. It's not really rocket science to unblock somebody on Facebook. If they need someone to come show them how, I'll be glad to. Also, looking over the budget that came through in my email recently, one of the big things we didn't see, and and concerned us too, actually. One is there doesn't seem to be any line item for medical care, and I'm not talking about the new vet oversight. I'm talking about day-to-day, the cats and dogs need vet care, and there's not a line item for that. And there was an item for food and supplies that was like $250, and it seems that ought to be in the budget for the shelter. They post all the time on Facebook that they're desperate for food and litter and all of that, and everybody needs donations, I get that, but if it's part of a county operation, should it not be a line item on the budget?
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm Beverly Kay. I live at 928 West Outer in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Thank you for giving us some status updates. We still are concerned what the status of the HR investigation is, the state investigation. Officer Porter is still employed, was reinstated by the mayor, but yet the person that shared concerns is still on administrative leave, and we'd like to know why and why that has not been addressed. And Officer Porter still has access to records. A lot of times they disappear. They even disappeared for some of my animals, and so I had to have them revetted because they disappeared. We still are concerned. I'm one of those people that cannot access Facebook. I actually made another Facebook page for the shelter in an effort to get visibility. Also was sharing the animals on a website, Pet Finder, to allow them to get more visibility. At one point I was banned where I couldn't even see the pictures. And now I still can't like or comment. But what also concerns me is Facebook is the main way for the animals to be seen. And we share those to allow people, both for rescues and for adopters. If we are not privy to these animals, how can we get them out there? And we were looking because some of the people that had been in the shelter said some of these animals are not posted. And we can't even ask that question, why are they not posted? Some of the animals have been there maybe for 3 weeks and have never been posted. So you have animals that could actually be taken and euthanized, but you would never know they were there. There are not intake dates on the animals showing, because obviously, if it's a 72-hour hold, that is crucial information. When the animal comes in, a lot of times there's no intake, there's no sex listed. We just wonder, if you can't handle something simple like a Facebook page, how can you possibly run a shelter? How can you adequately do that if the people that are wanting to help you don't have access to that? And a lot of the people have put their blood and guts, a lot of money into this shelter, really worked hard to try to work with the staff, with the rescues, with the volunteers and fosters, and that is still not happening. I think they're making an effort now to contact some people, but I think it's probably because of the publicity they're getting. So it's still a concern. There was one lady that had offered to go help and take pictures. They don't want our help. They don't want our help. And you can choose to believe a room full of people that keep coming back. We've been here since December asking, and we still don't see the changes. And we've been to HR, we've been to the state, we've been to the vet board, we've been to the DEA. Somebody needs to be asking questions and saying, what is the status? We need updates. We are the public that pay the bills. We need updates. I appreciate your time.
Mayor, can we have a status update regarding the licensing for Brian as well as the shelter, please?
The shelter, I do not have the inspection date. Dylan Roach has now been certified as a euthanasia tech. We have paid our permit fee, so once that's reinstated, once we're inspected, that will click over as active. And there's something that needs to be explained. We don't have to be a certified animal control agency to run an animal shelter. We do to have to conduct euthanasia on premise. So we have not, in terms of a status update, we have not been notified by the state of Tennessee that we need to shut down or anything like that. Office reporter has not conducted euthanasia since December 7th. So when he became aware, he did notify me. Some of the other statements that are made about the staff, I will once again check. I'm told that no one is blocked. Sometimes the employees do use their personal phones, and if they are not sharing or if they are not friends with someone, maybe they can't see a picture. But they do at some point try to get all pictures on there. We are limited in, we do not have to, I want to explain something about Facebook. I challenge everyone to go look at other shelters across the state. We are one of the only shelters that utilizes Facebook to the extent where, excuse me,
The mayor's got the floor, please.
excuse me. We are one of the only ones that use it for just about every animal that comes in. There are lawsuits, and our original task force, when we talked about Facebook, we shared. Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry.
I'm being called a liar, and I can't even focus to answer your questions.
Please refrain, because I let everybody speak without interruption, please.
We are one of the only ones that actually posts. I would challenge you, look up right now, Young Williams Animal Shelter. A lot of shelters use Facebook as a tool to highlight special animals or spotlight an animal that needs to be adopted. We're putting intakes, locations, roads. We really shouldn't put some animals if they appear to be in distress. There's actually a lawsuit out there in that regard. And so we are looking at another platform. In fact, I met with our website developer and have a proposal to update a site where we will do on a static page where it's not just the constant commenting that may not have the context or background. We'll have all lost animals, and then we'll have all adoptable animals. We don't have to and post these on Facebook. We do in order to facilitate adoptions. But what folks need to understand too, once you're on Facebook, for the employees, how do you govern the after hours? How do you govern the constant outreach? And that is a challenge. I mean, it may sound, ask Director Kim about after-hours work. And there are former employees sitting in this audience who I have actually shared this conversation with. You cannot work 24/7, and as a government entity, we have to ask those employees to turn it off. And many times these employees that are there, like them or love them, cannot turn it off. It is constant. Their life is constantly on Facebook. The animals are constantly on there. It is a never-ending cycle. And it does create a liability for Anderson County government. So we have to balance between the animals and the people and the employment law. The other thing about the lady who offered to come take pictures and that we don't care, I actually wrote that person back. Her name is Caitlin Young. She wrote me an email. I wrote her a very kind response, and I said, that is a wonderful idea. We would love to utilize your skills. She says she's taking a class, but I said, right now we're in the middle of an HR investigation. And as a wise manager, it's best to wait until the HR investigation is complete, and then we will bring you in to assist the shelter with better picture taking. I even talked to our website developer about that. Let's take them out of the cages and things like that. So we are working on that, but I can't just, in the middle of all of this, you can't solve 100 problems at the same time. There has to be a process.
Have you talked to the folks at Channel 95 perhaps?
Well, I mean, we could do something on Channel 95, but there is no way to do real time. I'll give you an example.
Well, no, I'm not saying real time, but I'm suggesting in the sense of, we've got this fluffy little white dog that needs a home. Put it on, our Channel 95's got a lot of blank time that just rolls.
Yeah.
Where it's just, it's a banjo, and it gives you a list of all the dates of when the meetings are coming up. In other words, just throw it in as a screenshot or a 20-second, take on the screen to remind people that we have an animal shelter and we have animals that need homes. Here's the phone number, and, contact us. Missing a pet? Call here.
Yeah. I think our team does a good job of getting the word out. If you look at our adoption numbers, and you look at the location of our facility, it is not a facility that someone naturally wants to go to. It's a recycle center, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. And that takes collaboration. No matter what the critics are saying, it does take collaboration. There are only 12 runs and only 20 cat cages. It also takes partnership with PetSmart, with people in the community. With regard to the question on medical bills, that's covered in the contracted services line item. And so that fluctuates. When the department was first stood up, we did not know what our revenues would be. Robbie started those out very modestly, and that's a requirement of budgeting from a finance standpoint, because the finance director does have to certify those revenues. So he started out small, and then what budget committee has done over time is you will see the animal control department come to budget committee and say, we want to increase revenues and then increase the expenditure code. And so you'll see when you go look at the CAFR, which is the audit report, you will see that contracted line item, what the year-end spend on that is. So last year, I believe Robbie bumped that up to $35,000. But then when you get to the end of the year, you're sometimes at $60,000 or $65,000. Medical bills are part of that, whether that's Planned Parenthood or the veterinary clinics. So it's not necessarily on the front end. As we grow over time, you'll see that contracted services code get larger. I have talked to Robbie about, perhaps in the next budget year for more transparency so that people can see that, break down the revenues, not just, so right now we have revenues that come in, you have under one code adoptions and fees. And then you have on another code donations. And what I would like to do, just so that we can, anyone who wants to go see it, what are adoption fees, what are reclaim fees, you could see the breakdown on that. And then also, not just contracted services, but make a dedicated cost center for medical bills so people can see what are spent on medical bills, what's spent on spay neuter. And we can break that down in the budget process and make that more transparent.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what the status was.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor.
And one more thing I want to add, and I want to clear the air on this one. When rescues reach out, so this can be an issue. At the end of the day, unless commission wants to fund even more of the department, we do have to rely on adoption revenue. So we have a responsibility, and if we, for instance, if we let a rescue take a full litter of kitten, or take all the kittens and then leave, I hate to call one undesirable, but maybe a feral that's a little not so cuddly, then we're left with something that's very hard to adopt, and then also that generates revenue. And so we do have, for instance, there are some complaints that, oh, we wanted to get, we wanted to take all of these cats. Well, we can give you maybe some, because we want to make sure that we're not euthanizing and that we have room, but some folks are turning around and adopting them themselves, or taking them to other places and charging various adoption fees, such as there's one particular organization that, oh, if this is a cute couple of kittens, we're going to charge $120 each for them. These may have health issues, we're going to charge $40. Well, I don't think the county wants to really be a participant in that business. There is a balance there of outreach for when we need help, and then otherwise we also have to generate revenues so that we're responsible to you on the Board of Commissioners. We're not just funding rescue organizations and their spay, neuter, and vaccines, but we're also trying to balance it all and keep some revenues, but yet we know there's a cost to operating an animal shelter and animal control.
I'm beginning to feel like a yo-yo. I didn't bring this up last time I was up, but Mayor Frank reminded me. I adopted a kitten from the shelter last week. I had called the shelter, asked when she would be available, and was told she'd be available Monday. Monday was a lousy day, so I went Tuesday to pick her up, and was told when I got there that she had already been adopted. That's great. As long as she's got a home, I'm happy. But I'm going to go ahead and look at the others while I'm here. In the course of looking, I got about halfway down the bay of cat holes. I hate to call them cages. And then got to the far section where they were marked clean, ready for other cats. They were far from being full. And I said, well, they're adorable, and they're going to be okay. And I got ready to leave, and then at the far end of the clean ones, I heard a loud meow after being told there were no more cats. I went down there, and there was the kitten I had come to adopt. I said, well, her sign doesn't say adopted. I was told, well, that one's not. I said, but that's the one I came in for. Oh, we thought you meant another calico. Fine. Can I take her? Yes, you can take her. $75. Okay. All I had was $80 in cash. She said, I don't have any change. I said, fine, make the other $5 a donation. So for $75, I took home, well, for $80, I took home a kitten who wasn't spayed and no spay certificate, and a receipt for $75, no receipt for the $5 donation. So don't know where that went. Contracted services is a nice, handy way to hide expenses. Most government agencies don't do that anymore because most people recognize it can be a hiding place. And transparency is what we have been asking for all along. As far as people having to be on call 24/7, John Q. Public, believe it or not, knows that shelters close. and that if you ask a question at 10 o'clock at night, you're probably not going to get an answer till they open the next day. That's just common sense. That's not a reason for not putting up all of the animals who are available. I went through and checked when Mayor Frank said that Young Williams doesn't post all of theirs. I just pulled up Young Williams on my phone. They have an intake site. They have an adoption site. They have different classifications for all of theirs. Because of some volunteer work I do, not everybody knows what I do with my spare time. I am involved with rescues all over the state of Tennessee and the state of Kentucky. Yes, most of them do use Facebook because that's what is the mass communication media that is most popular now. You could make recordings of these cats and dogs and put them on a loop on Channel 95. Doesn't take anything. Not broadcasting anything else, put it on a loop. It just cycles through. People can see it. They know who to call. They know where to go look. There are ways to address all of these issues, and I think the thing that has been most frustrating to me through all of this is all I'm hearing from Mayor Frank is why we can't do something, why everything is wrong, why it can't be done. And there are solutions. People have to have a can-do attitude. They have to approach it from how do we fix this, not how do we cover it up. And that's what I would like to see done. Thank you.
Jim? I appreciate everybody coming here about the animal shelter. I'm,
just wait a minute. Commissioner's got the floor.
I don't really like the aspersions on fraud or appropriating money or those items that I don't think there's any basis for, and there's certainly if okay, well, I just had to stand up for the employees of the county. Okay. Okay. All right, thank you.
Good comment, Commissioner.
I'm Melanie Lund, and I just wanted to address the issue of, working 24/7. There are so many people who want to volunteer, and Beverly was one of those people. She created another website for adoptable animals that she had control over, and she did that as a volunteer. Nobody paid her to do that, but she wanted to do that because she wanted to see animals get out of there. And there are so many volunteers out there clamoring to help, and it just seems like that's been shut down, and that really breaks our hearts because one, it's great for the animals because they get interaction with people, they get socialization, they get loved on. Staff is too consumed with cleaning and doing all the stuff they do to do all those little detailed things that make a difference for those animals and helps them become more adoptable. And speaking to the rescue issue, when I worked there as the shelter manager, if rescue came in like Feral Feline Friends or whatever, I get that they want kittens. Kittens are easily adoptable. I get that. I would be like, you take all the kittens you want. You just have at it. Because you know what? Probably 2 hours later, I'm going to get 12 more kittens in there, especially during kitten season. There is no want for kittens or cats, especially coming into the shelter. And yet, what really bothers me, and I know bothers all of us, is the PetSmart condos are sitting empty. And there are animals at the shelter, and the mayor is absolutely correct. A lot of people do not want to go to a shelter. It's too sad. It's heartbreaking to see them in that environment, and that's why it's such a blessing that we have PetSmart. And yet the condos are empty, and we have cats sitting at the shelter. And I get that Brian's thing is that he just wants to use Planned Parenthood, but there are other alternatives. There are other low-priced veterinary mobile clinics and just veterinaries, like the Gentle Doctor of East Tennessee, and the Spay Neuter, the mobile clinic with Young Williams. There are so many other places that you can get the animals fixed so they can get over there to PetSmart and get seen. So there are ways to make it work. So many people have really good ideas to make it work, and so we're just asking for that. Thank you.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Frank, with the adoption fees, how significant of a portion of his budget is that? And does the animal control budget, is that kind of unstable or unpredictable because of the adoption rates? Did that fluctuate any with COVID or before or after? Is that, I guess what I'm asking is there something where we could kind of intervene maybe with COVID funds or something to try to, not necessarily with COVID funds, but is there a way to kind of help stabilize their budget where he would feel more comfortable leaning on the rescues and not having to be faced with such a decision of gotta preserve the budget?
You know, I can certainly I've been trying to work on that with all the other things going on, an analysis of, you know, where we came from and where we are now. And in looking at that, so for instance, I pulled out some, how other counties like Roane County do the accounting, and some larger organizations do the accounting. And so I actually have all of that data together. I just haven't put it on paper. So I will try to get that for you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I mean, it's not, this county funds a great deal. So it's not, you know, it's not the make or break, but, you know, you have to remember, we only started in 2016. So the animal control program started with one officer. I think that was 2003. And then over time went to 2 animal control officers. And then 2016 was when the shelter first opened. So we're still, in the whole scheme of things, a relatively new, young organization. So, I mean, I can look to other counties and see kind of where they are for per square footage. For instance, one of the things, I was looking at recent news coverage in Campbell County, and their adoption rates are very low for the rescue organization that is running the Campbell County shelter. But if you look at their rescues, they are really, really high. And so you saw a little bit of commission battle taking place over that issue because, you know, the county commission there is looking at, oh my gosh, you know, how do we fund this? I think they ended up funding $380,000 or something to that tune in Campbell County. And part of that issue is there are no, you know, there's very few revenues coming in there. It's all going out to rescues. And it's just a different thing. You know, those are things that I don't make that decision. That's, you all make that decision as a body, as county commissioners. And I don't try to come to you and force that on you. If you look at how we've grown over time, it's one step at a time. You know, we'll do a website. We've done Comcate. You've added another officer. You allowed us to do PetSmart. You've underwritten additional architectural work. And so those are things that we've done one step at a time. You extended hours for animal control. That was an issue for Sheriff's Department and Dispatch where they're not equipped with handling animals. Our folks are on call. So you gave us some extra money to deal with that. So we are doing 2 different jobs here, but it's a very long-winded way of saying, I'll get you the numbers, but it has been growing over time. Where's that stability? I don't know.
Thank you.
Anything else to come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll call it adjourned. Thank you for your time.